everybody, thanks for watching another episode of Let's Dish with Lily. I am Lily, and today I'm joined by my friend and yours, Morgan Davis. He is the editor of Overload.com. He co-produced a really cool upcoming short film called I Am Texas, directed by Ryan Darbon, episode 2. Check it out. Morgan, thank you so much for stopping by. And,
yeah, absolutely.
We're about to eat some P. Terry's cheeseburgers here. So if you're ready to dig in, go ahead. But I want you to tell the viewers a little more about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I am a music writer and editor. Overload is the main place that I'm at for music writing, and it's our motto is Austin Music First. So our mission is to focus on Austin musicians and stuff that's happening within Austin music, and give a platform for local artists and local issues. And we also do events. We've done DIY festivals. We did one called AWFUCK, which is the Austin House Fest of Unity, Community, and Chaos. And that one was basically getting together a bunch of DIY houses in Austin and showing people that you can do a show anywhere, and it was always for different causes. So the one from last year was for the Trans Assistance Project and American Gateways, and American Gateways is a nonprofit that's focused on providing legal aid for immigrants in Texas and beyond. So yeah, it's just we try to just be very involved in the community, and we take community very seriously. That's but awesome. I also do music writing in other places. I've written for used to be Fusion, but now it's Splinter News. Spectrum Culture, cool. And some other places. But yeah, and then beyond that, I in my personal life, I do the film production and a lot of graphic design work is probably like my number one thing.
If you guys hear little steps around, it's my dog Miles, who was crying too much in the room we put him in, so we let him out before we started.
The most adorable dog.
He is cute. I might bring him up in a little bit, but not while we're eating. Maybe while we're eating.
He's like the fluffiest dog.
He's cute. You can follow him on Instagram. Do you know that?
I did not know that.
Okay. Morgan, tell us where you're from. You just said you're from Charleston?
Yeah, I was originally born in Charleston, South Carolina. But my family moved around a lot, so my brother was born in Florida, and then my sister was born in Puerto Rico. So,
oh wow!
Yeah. So we got around.
which if any of those places, or including Austin, do you consider like home?
I guess pretty much Austin. I've been in Austin for a while, because my grandparents are still in South Carolina, but I never really spent much time there. I didn't live there as an adult or anything, so I don't really have a sense of it other than visiting there. But yeah, I've been in Austin almost 8 years now.
That's a long time. Austin has changed so much. How has the music scene changed since you've been here?
It's interesting because it's changed in a lot of ways, but it's also remained the same in a lot of ways. The biggest hurdle is that there's not really a lot of infrastructure here. So if you're a musician and you want to be on a label or have a booking agency help you or something like that, there's not a lot of options in Austin.
Yeah. Compared
to other places, not even necessarily LA and New York, but also just Nashville. But there's more venues, there's been more attention paid to how to make it more livable for musicians. So
yeah.
So there is that. And then South by changes all the time. And that's, I think most people kind of define Austin by South by. But yeah, over the past few years, South by in particular has switched from being more of kind of a just anything goes, it used to be, where when you first moved here was probably when they still had the big Doritos inflatable vending machine that people performed out of.
Have never seen it in person. Because I used to go to South by a lot more when I didn't live here.
Right.
Because we'd make a trip out of it and come and do have a plan and a schedule and stuff. And I came for music. Or I came for Fader Fort at some
Right.
point.
But yeah, like Fader Fort's not even a real. I mean, it still exists, but like the massive thing.
It's not where it used to be.
And they're turning it into like a giant open air mall and like creative office space or something.
Gosh.
But yeah, that whole part of town in particular is just crazy now. Like when I first moved here, there wasn't as much to do in the outlying areas. It was pretty much like you could go to SoCo. Which that like it even feels gross saying that.
I know.
But you could either go to the South Congress,
gross.
which is like the touristy part, or you could go to East Austin, which was like very hipstery, or downtown, but like far north and far south and far west were like basically just houses. There wasn't really anything to do. But now there's so much more going on in each of these areas. Like even just like in art, because we both live in basically the same area.
Yeah.
Like Airport Boulevard has become really fantastic for like food and like theater stuff and
Yeah, Cold Town Theater. Airport 4803 Airport Boulevard. We are going to start putting Let's Dish with Lilli on Cold Town TV, and I'll link that in the comments, guys. But you'll be able to see a lot of cool content, a lot of stuff. We're going to be doing stuff with Morgan with Overload. I
went to school for film, and then I ended up doing stuff in like other fields, and I still do film stuff, but it can be harder. Like most of my work on that front is like documentary focused. So like Overload's done a lot of like documentary type content. Like we did one on this really great local band called Magna Carta, just following them around during South by and kind of like trying to show what a local band's experience is for South by versus like if you're a touring band that's coming through. Because local bands kind of get short thrift during South by. Because most of the venues don't want to book local acts. They're trying to get...
Yeah, and that's gotten a lot harder.
Yeah, and it's been a while since we've had like local bands that have been in national prominence. Because for a while we had like Spoon, Trail of Dead, stuff like that. Like was Bright Light Social Hour.
Yeah, they're local.
Those, yeah. Oh, and Black Angels. Like those were all coming up at like relatively the same time. And then now it's a more... It's like become even more independent, but it's harder and harder for local musicians to like get label interest if they want it or any of that. Like people love to come here for music, but it seems like it's hard to get a lot of the stuff that's happening here out onto like the larger stage for whatever reason.
Yeah, and you would think, honestly, there's that disconnect in my brain is like, why would it be harder? Because with social media and like such accessibility to the product and the producer of the product, the artist, it seems like it would be easier to get signed to something or just like, you know, get a deal.
It's easier in some ways, but then the flip side of that is that there's so many more people competing.
True.
Especially like in Austin, like I swear every square inch is turned into like a venue at some point. Like
Yeah.
like you go out to dinner here and you can't like escape music. There's like bands playing all the time, and they're not necessarily good bands. Like I'm sure most of us have had that experience. Just wanting to have dinner.
I've seen shitty bands.
Yeah. Like, do I really need to hear like some bargain bin Willie Nelson right now? Like,
Yes.
I just want to eat my tacos in peace.
It's so funny you say that because I can't even go to HEB without hearing live music sometimes. It's
Yeah, because
like,
they have that one over here where they have the...
Cafe Mueller. But apparently they have very good food.
They do.
I haven't tried it.
They have good barbecue there. That's like my dad's favorite spot when he comes to town. It's really good. Yeah. He's like, you guys want to go to Mueller? It's a grocery store. There's lots of other options.
How did you get so into music? I want to know that. And do you have like a favorite genre?
I got really into music like a lot of people do in like middle and high school. And I was like playing music and stuff too. I had like a band starting when I was in like 7th grade or something like that. That was terrible.
Wow. Do you have pictures?
Oh yeah.
Send them to me.
Yeah, and it was like, you know, we would start with playing like Nirvana covers and stuff, Pixies. But yeah, my dad worked in the music business as like a club promoter before he like transitioned over to like what his job is now. So we always had like music in the house, and my mom was like super into music too. They had like similar tastes in some areas but different, so I got like a full variety of music.
Yeah.
And like my dad was especially into like punk. because that was like what he was like booking. So that was like the first genre that I really fell in love with.
Yeah.
And when I was in high school, I also like, we had a youth center, and they would have the kids like actually work and like run it and everything, you know, teach us like responsibility and stuff. So I was like booking that, which also kind of like, that's how I first started getting into like more of the background aspect of music. Like I was writing about music for like the high school paper then, but that's a different sort of thing. And so like actually working in this like venue and getting touring bands coming through, I just like really fell in love with like putting on shows and like trying to expose people to like new music and having to work with like the reality of it, which is like not always very pretty.
Yeah.
Especially when you put together an amazing bill and then like no one shows up. Like,
that's such a bummer.
Yeah. We were doing, since it was like a teen like youth club, we were getting a lot of like punk bands and stuff coming through, and folk and like stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so it was like crazy like to think back on like some of the shows that we had, because it was a lot of bands that like now are pretty big, like Against Me. Yeah, and like on one of their first tours. So, you know, I just remember like putting on these shows and there being like 5 people, and then them like crashing on like the couches at like the youth center and everything, which is just kind of like makes you think like, but these people are like amazing. Like I read about them in Maximum Rock and Roll. Like how can there only be like this many people? And then you start realizing that that's honestly what music is most of the time. It's like the reality of it is it's very boring and a very like ungrateful sort of like business to be in. So you really only do it if you're like super in love with it, and you just can't not.
Yeah.
So that's kind of been like my music life in general, is just like shaking people, trying to get them to like listen to something like when it's coming up, but, you know, so that they can support it rather than just like things that are already blown up.
Yeah, that's so important.
Well, and especially like when you're first starting up, you know, you have to go on tour to build an audience.
Yeah.
But then you're in that awkward stage of like, there's no audience. And, but like with the punk circuit, it was cool because it felt like there was people were trying to work together on it. So, you know, like it was like almost like a whole support scene that existed there to try to like help bands know like you can go to this place, and even if there's not like a draw, they'll at least give you food and you can crash on the couch. And
cool.
So everyone would like be, and this was like pre-internet, right? I mean, like the internet existed, but it, you know, you didn't really have like Facebook.
MySpace.
Yeah. So you didn't necessarily like know what you were getting into, and you just kind of had to like go on the word of like people who wrote you a letter from your Maximum Rock and Roll.
Letters are
right.
The mail you receive, people used to send each other letters.
There used to be like a whole pen pal thing with that. Like with
Did you ever
magazines.
have a pen pal?
I did back then, like, because that was like so much of like the punk stuff was like sending each other like 7 inches and things, trying to turn people onto like what's going on in like your backyard. And it also gave you this like motivation to be on top of your local music scene, because you were trying to like turn people in other areas onto like what you're going on. It was like competitive in a way, because like that was when I was in Seattle, so you know, you'd have like the Seattle scene, and like you were very proud of the Seattle scene, and then, you know, you'd have like rivalries with Portland. Like even though it was hard, it was like very fulfilling, and to like know that you were helping these bands and like doing the best that you could to try to make sure they had a good experience, even if there wasn't an audience or whatever. And hopefully then they would tell other bands, and so then you would keep getting people to come through.
You met Kaylee doing through Overload, right?
No, actually. So I met Kaylee. It's a long story.
Kaylee is Morgan's very cool girlfriend. We might see her soon.
Yeah,
Kaylee Hughes. She's a writer.
She writes at like Pitchfork. Consequence of Sound, I think, is like her main place right now. She's also written for Vox, Paste.
Her hair is hot pink.
Yeah.
And it's like very well done.
But yeah, so she and I met because she used to work for an erotic romance novel company.
That's fucking cool.
Yeah. And she worked there with a friend of mine, John Bender, who he and Dylan Garcia, who you also know, the 3 of us had started a kind of like Dadaist trivia night called Pop Quiz, which is like now kind of mutated into game show, which is Dylan's thing.
Oh yeah.
Which is Gayme.
Gayme. You might meet Dylan Garcia soon.
He's amazing.
Well.
He's great. So we did this like trivia night, and we were doing it at Spider House, And the whole point of like pop quiz was there's no sports questions, so it was like very much like all just like pop culture stuff, but we did it in a way that was like very strange and like surreal and like kind of like taking like a Tim and Eric approach to it. And like John, he writes for Clickhole now, so like it all like kind of like worked out. But Kaylee used to come with some of their like workmates, so that was like first place we met, was that she was like at the trivia, and one of her friends hired Dylan and John and I to do a Harry Potter themed trivia for like their Harry Potter party, which we did. We even had like a sorting hat to like determine who was going to be on like which team. Yeah,
that's so fun.
Right.
What a fun time.
It was great. So that was like kind of like how we had first met. And then after that, she had contacted me because I had started up this multimedia organization called Loser City. And the whole point of Loser City was to help marginalized voices get roles at prominent pop culture publications. So me and some other writers who had experience were essentially training people who were like coming up and trying to help them like learn about how to pitch and how to get at these places. So Kaylee started writing for us, and then through that, like we helped her get at like Pitchfork and Vox and some of those.
Yeah.
And then, so we'd known each other for a while. We weren't like dating at like any at this point. And then she had come down here for Fun Fest a couple years back, and you know, we just kind of like things fell together from that. So yeah. And it's like funny too, because like Fun was like, it was the best festival in Austin, I think.
Yeah. I remember coming up for Fun Fest before I moved here.
And then the year after, like, we'd gone together, that it, like, there was no more Fun, and then it was, like, reborn as Sound on Sound, and then Sound on Sound was together for a bit, and then last year it didn't happen at all, so a lot of successful relationships happen those, because, like, where you're not
looking.
Yeah, when you're not, like, feeling that, like, oh, I just really need to, like, be with someone, I feel so lonely.
Yeah.
You know, like, if you get, like, that desperate feeling, a lot of times that can make you make bad decisions.
Yeah.
Versus if you're, like, not necessarily looking for a relationship, and, like, maybe you're considering alone time, and then you just happen to find someone that just, like, works really well, then it's, like, it works out better.
Yeah.
But
I think, too, for Ryan and I, we're in really similar places in our lives.
Yeah, you're both really creative and have a lot of projects going on.
Yeah. And you and Kaylee obviously have a lot of similar interests, passions.
Well, and that had been a problem for us individually in other relationships, of like being with people who just didn't really get that passion. Because it can be tough when you're like with someone who is passionate about something that's maybe not as creative arts oriented. And it can be like, why do you do this? Like, you don't make any money from this thing. And
yeah, well, it's hard. How do you and maybe this is different for you, but for me, I feel like sometimes it's really hard to maintain my non-theater improv friendships. Just because I'm like, the people I spend the most time with are people who I'm working on projects with, and the people I am typically working on projects with are good friends of mine who are also performers, who are also, they're actors, comedians. So yeah, it's a little tough. Or the times I want to hang out, it's like during the day.
Especially like I feel like in Austin that can be more difficult than other places because everyone has got like so many things going on. So like trying to like schedule anything with friends it can just be such a headache because you're just like everyone's like operating on totally different schedules. Most people are not on 9 to 5s,
Yeah.
So but yeah, like I don't know, I feel like most of my my friendships are with like creative people. So.
Yeah. I'm gonna call Miles here. Miles, just because he's moving around so much. Is he making so much noise, Ricky? Come here.
Get him little slippers so that way he can just like be silent. There we go.
This is Miles, everyone. Well, your dog met Miles. Was the first dog Miles met outside of.
It was adorable. It was funny because you guys had just gotten Miles. And Ryan was like so protective.
Yeah.
I think he was like worried that if he put Miles down, then Miles was going to get eaten.
Yeah. Because Callie.
So my dog is like, she's like 55 pounds and she's very athletic and
she's got an athletic build.
She's like, it's funny because like, like on the back of the dog food packages, they have like the silhouette of like the dog to show you like, your dog should be like this size if it's like this or this. it's not healthy, and like Callie like looks like the drawing of the dog on the back, and it just cracks me up. I always want to like send her into like Purina or whatever and be like, here is your model dog. But yeah,
How
she's
old
like
is Callie?
she turns 5 this year.
Oh, have you had her since she was a baby?
Yeah, a friend of mine found a litter of puppies in the dumpster behind her apartment.
Oh my god.
And she got all of them adopted except for Callie, who was the runt of the litter.
Aww.
Which I know is like hard to believe if you've met Callie.
The runts are always the ones who grow up to be big and bad.
Yeah. But yeah, so the family that was originally going to take Callie in, like, changed their mind. And so my friend was like, can you just, like, foster her for a little bit until I can find another family? And then, you know, Callie ended up staying with us permanently. So, but yeah, she's really sweet. She's just, like, super friendly and thinks that everyone is as excited to meet her as she is to meet them.
She is.
But she's really good with small dogs.
Baby. Oh.
She used to live with a small dog.
She did?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
So, yeah. So she's, like, used to, like, I have to be gentle and not play with them the same way that I play with the humans or like with larger things. So
oh my gosh, that's adorable. She's got like maternal instincts.
She's much better with small dogs than she is with bigger dogs, because with bigger dogs she just tries to get them to play the whole time, and most of the big dogs, they don't have as much energy, you know.
Yeah.
Versus like small dogs usually are like can meet her on the same like level.
Well, so Miles, we've had him now since Valentine's Day, and I got him at the Humane Society, Austin Humane Society, and he had been there less than 24 hours.
I was gonna say, how did he not get like picked up? Like
he had
right
been,
away?
yeah. We're gonna do a lightning round of questions. Miles here for the assist. You ready, Miles? Work. Round 1. Texting or talking?
Texting or talking on the phone? I'm gonna go with texting.
Favorite day of the week?
Saturday.
Favorite city in the U.S. besides the one you live in?
This is a weird one, but Annapolis, Maryland. I live there. I like it a lot. It has like a ton of history. It's like one of the oldest cities in the U.S.
Ooh, that's hard to find.
Yeah.
Is a lot of history.
Yeah, we lived there when I was a kid, and it was like, I still just love it because it's like everything's brick, and like the buildings are from like the 17th or 18th century.
Last song you listened to?
This new song by Anastasia and Harris Qureshi called Capital Bells.
Would you rather be able to speak every language in the world or be able to talk to animals?
I'd much rather be able to talk to animals. Who cares about people, right?
Yeah, fuck them. Favorite holiday?
Halloween.
At what age do you want to retire?
I don't know that I am gonna be able to retire.
Right?
Just like when you do creative stuff, like, do you ever really stop?
Yeah. Invisibility or super strength?
Invisibility, for sure.
Okay, I think we're getting close to a wrap-up point.
All right.
Before we go, though, I want you to tell us about your podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And other places on the internet we can look for your stuff.
So I'm doing one called Movies That Scarred Me, which is where me and Marco Stack, who's a comics writer and a good friend of mine, interview people about traumatizing movie experiences that they've had.
What's the podcast again?
Movies That Scarred Me.
Movies
and it's on
That
iTunes.
Scarred Me.
And if you Google it, like, I think we're the first thing, or second, somewhere around there. One of the first things that pops up.
Cool. And then Overload.
Yeah, OVRLD.com.
That's it.
Mm-hmm. And everyone always pronounces that as some other weird thing.
So that's what Morgan's up to. You should check out his podcast.
And then I Am Texas.
And check out I Am Texas. It's a short film about a punk band.
You can't see it yet.
You can't watch it yet. You won't watch it anytime
But it'll
soon.
be on the festival circuit.
Exactly. So check that out. They did a Kickstarter and everything.
We did a Indiegogo.
An Indiegogo. I am acting like I wasn't super familiar with even just the look of the page.
Yeah.
That was all me.
Yeah, so if you need that, contact Lilli.
Yeah, I do. I do marketing. So hit me up. But anyway, thank you so much, Morgan, for coming
thank you so much for having me.
Carries with me.
Yeah, of course. And hanging out with Miles.
Miles. We'll have to schedule him and Callie a play date.
Oh my god,
soon.
that'd be great.
Yes. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Check out all of Morgan's stuff. If you like the video, like, share, comment. Let us know what you want to eat. What you want us to eat. But other than that, we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.